Now that's unusual, Jazz Cabbage Cafe, how incredibly smooth that intro was. That doesn't normally, not that it ever matters, but it doesn't normally hit at the right time like that. Which
Well,
is,
it must matter. If you're mentioning it, it must matter to you, Jamie.
It does. It's my own little lack of execution almost every week. And this time it came together pretty well. So,
yes, it did.
So we're starting off. I was going to say we're starting off with myself and Rick Thompson, but that wouldn't be accurate because we've now been joined by Mr. Hash Bash, Adam Brook. And,
sorry about that.
No problem. We will.
You ended up in the spam folder this week.
We'll challenge Rick with some loud music over our sponsor ads. One of these days we might even correct this, but it's been fun so far, so let's keep it going.
Great.
I got my Jazz Cabbage Cafe is sponsored by the Botanical Company, Redemption Cannabis, Alcascas Fuel Solutions, Detroit Nutrient Company, GreenMI.com, 20 promos with Culture Clothing.
It actually works. If you want to speak directly into the mic and be somewhat loud, it works.
I had to do this.
Yep, and it sounded okay, but we should just probably fix it anyway. And joining us early, Amie Carter. How you doing, Amie?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very good. And we're gonna talk about some cool stuff today. 5512, which you can be part of that conversation for sure, Amie. You've been heavily involved in that. Obviously, we'll continue announcing your new candidacy and talk about that a little bit too. And later on, Ethan Thampy will come on, and we've been wanting to get him back on since he was on for a couple of minutes to announce his plans for the Deschedule bill in Missouri. Of course, we have our own version here, which we'll talk to him about too. But we got an update from Ethan Thampy about what's going on with the Deschedule effort in Missouri, and talk to him about a few things. So looking forward to that. Last night, Cannon Nurses and Tiki Madman were on Medical Monday. I'm really happy for the Cannon Nurses. Very professional. They bring some credibility to this discussion, and they have a really righteous perspective on it. One that I think we all in this community kind of agree with. Jamie Rick, 36. Amie, does that mean 36 mean that is a nickname for Adam somehow?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I was given the number 36 jacket for the Legends of Ash.
Legend. Okay, good. That's a positive one. I thought maybe it was somebody was giving you some shit, and I was going to have to either laugh or be upset about it.
That's a respect thing. Cool. I would say, and I agree with Jamie. The show last night was kind of cool with the nurses. I would say though that they're still old school.
There's some information that they need.
Well, but not even that. They are about as anti-cannabis, pro-cannabis as you can be. They are not what many people think they are based on their name. They are not out cannabis users who promote it like you or I would. They protect their license, and they are very cognizant of the words they use and how they behave.
Right, they're in the health professional world, and they hear all the controversy and the big health systems problems with talking about positively about cannabis and all that kind of stuff.
And all of that is still about the stigma that they're dealing with. Yeah. And it just goes to show that as far as we've come, we still have that much farther to go.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the health systems. And of course, Amie knows a lot about that too.
We're trying to get back to a time when cannabis is talked about in health all the time. And that wasn't but 120 years ago, 110 years ago.
And it's like the first course of action instead of wading through a bunch of poisons and dangerous procedures.
And unfortunately, cannabis nurses like these ladies are as far away from that as we can get still. And it's because of the stigma. It's not them personally. It's the stigma that the society, the medical society puts on them. So
then it was cool to hear
from Tiki. To hear their point of view, and that they all have successes with moving the ball forward and convincing people in their professions.
I agree. Yeah, and how they got into it too is interesting.
Right.
People should watch that show last night and listen to what compelled these health professionals to take this position, and even in a risky situation, as Adam points out. Tiki Madman was pretty cool too. I generally like his views. I think he's kind of got a pretty sound perspective on a lot of things that we talk about, even some of the nuances about cannabis that aren't exactly mainstream and require a little extra involvement or effort or desire to want to understand. And it's always kind of cool to hear from him. So that was cool. So anyway, you know what? So let's I was going to talk about a couple different things, and we'll see what goes down. And of course, Rick Anstiss has joined us in the meantime too, Mr. Fun Gee, or G, if you will.
Fun guy.
Fun guy.
It's a play on words. Yeah.
It is. You could have actually spelled out guy. That's why I kind of
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's all good. So obviously Rick's been involved in a lot of the efforts that we've had going down this last year, and most recently was just in Lansing to watch the stupid vote in the judiciary for House Bill 5512, which we will get into a little bit more. But let's take a second out and formally, at least on our show and for our listeners, recognize our new state House representative candidate. And I don't know what the new district number is. I forgot. 68, 67,
68.
68. Wow, that the neuron just fired off and just said that for me. I really don't know where that
You
came
were
out,
guessing, you got lucky.
and discuss that. And what's really cool about it, there was just the efforts for redistricting and there's new districts made and all this kind of things. And a lot of circumstances come together to make this a really viable run for office. And it's not just somebody stepping up and with an alternative idea and going against the establishment or something like that. It's like there's some really good aspects to this candidacy and the opportunities that are here in this new district. And we're glad that somebody who has the kind of passion and background as Amie is stepping up to the plate to take that on. But let us know about your candidacy, Amie, and what has motivated you and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, as many people know, I struggled for a lot of years fighting.
Amie, we lost your audio.
Oh, you went mute, Amie. Sorry.
Jamie,
Hey,
can
Amie,
you
you
fix
have to
that? Jamie, you can fix that, can't you?
I don't know. No, I can't. Amie, your mic has been muted this whole time, and I cannot unmute it.
Everybody named
Check.
Rick is awesome. Everybody named Rick. Oh, everybody named
Sorry,
Rick
guys.
is awesome.
I got a phone call and it messed my phone all up.
It's okay, but we didn't hear
I filled
anything,
in for
just
you.
so you know.
Oh, I can't hear you guys at all.
Oh, no. Can you hear us now?
Amie was also there
Okay,
for the
well, I'm going to
remediation.
sign out and come back in.
Okay, you can try that. We can hear you, but might as well have a better connection. So,
Amie and Latrish were also in Lansing for the remediation hearing held by the MRA on Wednesday. I keep forgetting that that's after we broadcast our show on Tuesday that happened. So that'll all be fresh information for our folks as well.
oh yeah, and one more thing, we're waiting for Amie to come back on. If I'm not mistaken, and Adam, if you're still down, we talked about you being available to give away some event tickets.
Oh yeah, I can do that. I need to set that up, but I can do it.
All right, we'll get to that, and then we'll get some details on that, and hopefully some people watching can get some tickets to the Hash Bash weekend festivities. Here's Amie again. Amie, do you hear us?
Yes, can you hear
Right
me?
on. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
So, anyways, I've been fighting the mental health care system for over a decade, and I set out many years ago, and I vowed that I am going to improve children's mental health care in Michigan. And so that's kind of what fueled the passion to begin with. I also have, views on other issues in Michigan. When I became the parent petitioner to help get autism an approved condition in cannabis, I really kind of jumped into the political side of things and really tried to, really understand what's going on in Lansing and what's going on with cannabis laws. And I had been lobbying for the last few months out in Lansing, and I just could feel it in my soul that this is what I needed to do, that the last 10 years had prepared me to do this. So I'm jumping in, and I have a really good feeling. I met with the Michigan Democratic Party today, and I had coffee with them, and it went really, really well. And I can know some different tools that we can use for canvassing and campaigning in the area. And I'm really excited about all of it. It's going to be a really fun experience, and it's going to be really great when I do get elected, because it's going to be a whole different kind of feel in Lansing with all the redistricting and all the changes that are being made right now.
And significant that you had this meeting today, because that's kind of what I was alluding to. This is the party that's getting behind you. They needed somebody to step up for this district. They were happy when they saw that you had filed, and now you have a meeting and you're getting the support. It's very difficult to win without that, kind of backing and recognition from the party itself. It happens sometimes, but it's just a tougher road. I mean, this is a very real opportunity, and that's what makes this a lot more, exciting and necessary for people to get on board and support, because we can get a really good decision maker in that mix.
And from, kind of our opinion on it, or the lady I met with today, she said it's going to be a tough race. She said it's like a 50-50 because of where the district is and who I'm going to be running against. So I'm definitely going to have to, make sure I'm knocking those doors and making those contacts that I need to.
And we, of course, you kind of had like a little kickoff gathering the other night, and you have some good people in place and a lot of support, and there's some nice enthusiasm and momentum coming out of the gates. But candidacy is long and hard and expensive, and hopefully getting word out that this is a very real chance of success in your position on these issues that really are in tune with most of us, if not, certainly with cannabis, all of us. Mm-hmm. And get the kind of support you need to see it all the way through.
Yes,
and
definitely.
That would be awesome.
It'll be nice having more reps that are truly educated on cannabis. I know we have a few in there that, really understand the laws and the MMA and
even those, though, we have to go give some extra information to quite a bit.
Definitely. Yes.
So.
Definitely.
Here in Genesee County, it's been typically a Democratic controlled zone, but with redistricting, they've made it much more difficult for Democrats to just automatically walk into office. So previously, you won your race by winning the primary, but I don't think that's true anymore, Amie. The way they've chopped up the district now incorporates some pretty conservative areas. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
Yes.
Well, there are attempts at balancing, right? That's the point. So.
Yeah, it goes down to Oakland County, which is a little strange, but a lot of the new districts are, 2 different counties.
Yeah. Yep. So. Based on population voting tendencies to try and even out Republicans and Democrats so that each party has a fair chance in those districts.
Right on. They're not like, as we've seen, like 2 miles wide and like 40 miles long, and then capturing a nice block and then going back to a little thin tunnel over to someplace else and going through 4 or 5 counties, or that's the kind of gerrymandering districts that this was designed to. Even though this is a little weird, they're a little choppy and they cover a couple counties. It does seem to be an attempt at an improvement.
Yeah, they may not be perfectly rectangular, but they certainly are better. And if you take a look at the history in Michigan's legislature, you'll see that the Senate has been controlled by Republicans for 30 years. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. The Michigan Senate has not been controlled by Democrats for 30 years. So hopefully with redistricting, we can see a parity in that house. A House of Representatives sometimes waffles back and forth between the two, but we really need that Senate to get unlocked. That's for sure. So best of luck for your campaign, and we're happy to help support in any way we can.
Thank you.
And you were at House Bill 5512's hearing today. I know that you and Rick Anstiss both were. Did they take testimony? Did they just go straight to a vote? What went down?
Do you want to answer, Rick? Or basically, they just kind of brought it up and took a vote. Everybody agreed yes to pass it, except for one, and they just passed on the vote.
Which is kind of a cool one, even though it sucks that everybody else was in support of it. That was a guy who was in support. We talked to him, and he was a pass today.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting today because, you know, Yancey is on that board and she voted for it to pass. And I went in and talked to her legal aid, and he, you know, after I said, you know, what I wanted to say, he was like, oh yeah, I'm sure we're going to be opposed to this, you know, like he was, you know, really understanding what I was saying. And I didn't mention, you know, like, well, she just
she just voted yes for it on the judiciary.
I didn't mention that. I figured I'd let them hash that out.
This is a tough one, as you know. You guys know, you've been up in Lansing talking to people. There's some levels of complexity here. It's really easy to kind of bullshit somebody on this one as being good. So it's hard to unlayer it for people, right? And we'll get into it a little bit later. Rick and I were part of a meeting with one of the judges and one of the lobbyists pushing for this. Got some insight into the psyche there that's involved in this. And that's why I kind of I'm leaning toward this is well intended, you know, egregiously or not. There's a level of judicial overreach that would result from this that I don't think that we should stand for, and that can be covered through other approaches that also would relieve us of needing necessary layers of bureaucracy and putting more burdens on people that are already in a tough system. There's another aspect of this that came up today too, in terms of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act and immunity for having your card that isn't affected for being in the criminal justice system. That was my question to the lawyer today. You have immunity when you have your card, and does that get affected? Do you give that up? Does that dissolve somehow if you're caught up in the criminal justice system? And I was told no. It doesn't. That's something that should be brought up more. That's the basis upon which we got the good higher court ruling in the Toohey case.
That's a modern interpretation, because that certainly hasn't always been the interpretation.
But it's been the intention and the actual words. But it just hasn't been respected for years. That's
in Oakland
exactly
County
correct.
for a long time, they were proactively filing motions against people where they couldn't use the words medical marijuana in their cases. I mean,
to suppress their patient status and hide the cards from the jury.
Right. And they would make sure when they raided you to ask you for your card and take your card. They'd photograph your card and then not return it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was important to them at one point, but when you got to court, it was no longer important. That was to be hidden.
Especially in Oakland County.
Right.
Well, one of the things a drug court judge that Jamie and I spoke to the other day, along with the lobbyists from GCSI, Governmental Consulting Services Incorporated, which is a lobbying firm here in Lansing.
Big lobbying firm in Michigan, one of the biggest.
One of the things he pointed out is that a drug court is voluntary, and when you go into a voluntary situation, you give up certain rights, which could very well include giving up your right to be able to suggest that you have a medical marijuana need. But to me, that's antithetical to the whole point of the law in the first place. You shouldn't have to say to anybody, I surrender my right to use my medical cannabis. We fought hard for you not to have to do that. And so for judges to try and actually do a backdoor end around on the Court of Appeals decision, to me, that's not a very judicial action.
So one of the misfires here in their thinking, whether ill-intended or not, is that they, by matter of their deeming position in the universe, that they must have control, and that unless they actually go out of their way to allow this, that they can't allow it, which is incorrect on its face. And when I say we get rid of burdens and extra layers of bureaucracy, specifically what they want to do, and Rick, you were there, so if I get this wrong or something like that, fill in some gaps or correct me, but what they want to do, if somebody wants to use medical marijuana in this, and they're in this program, they are requiring an investigation into that process of them getting their card, which would include bringing in the doctor for a hearing to discuss with the doctor the person's medical condition and reasonings for having the card, and and that type of thing. And then the decision would be made by the judge. And of course, that's the judge making a medical decision that they're not qualified to make. But the judge who is lobbying for this would say, but of course, if the doctor shows up and says they need this or whatever, the judge is going to go along with it. So the answer here is eliminate all that and look at the card. If you have a card, it means you've established a doctor-patient bona fide relationship. You've been through the state-recognized process all the way through getting a recommendation letter, submitting an application to the state, having it reviewed, having it accepted, put in the registry, issued a card. That covers all of that ground. But they want to do this for every single case, not for cases in which there's some question, not for cases in which there's some kind of really good evidence that says there might have been a problem with this person's getting their card. And in that case, there are already things in place, avenues in place to do those investigations. So they could then wait for those to play out and then take it from there.
It's a huge undue burden.
So in my opinion, the law could well stand to be changed, but that would be to codify the TUI decision into law. And you don't get denied voluntary courts simply for being a medical marijuana patient. And you don't get denied use of your medicine for being a medical marijuana patient. And that solves the problem.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to deal with the whole attitude that cannabis is equivalent to other addictive substances either. Go ahead, Adam.
Well, I just wonder if you by any chance asked that judge if he felt qualified to make any other medical decisions.
Well, we pushed him on the medical thing. And he said right off the bat, we don't want judges making medical decisions, but then described a scenario in which judges were forced to make medical decisions.
I mean, and I would be happy to argue that this is not a medicine, accept the argument that this is not a prescribed medicine, that this is more like a natural substance that's recommended by a doctor. No problem. But what other substances natural substances do they not allow patients to use?
Rick mentioned, or Zara, I think it was Rick mentioned something about tobacco, and the judge was like, "Oh, we've done that before too. We told people they couldn't use tobacco." And Rick's like, "Really? You've actually told somebody that they cannot use tobacco even?" He goes, "Well, I didn't. It happened in some other court."
He was quick to deny that it was his responsibility. He was just reporting that it had happened. But that just illustrates the degree to which drug courts think that they want to have control over you in order to somehow break you of your addiction through complete abstinence. Guess what? Abstinence doesn't work to stop teenage pregnancy. Abstinence doesn't work to stop drug addiction either.
Right.
You have to change the scenario people are in. If you can get clean and go right back to the same environment in which you were dirty, and you're not going to stay clean.
Rick might be having a problem with his Anstiss might be having a problem with his connection. But Amie, you've spoken to a few lawmakers on this issue, and I'm just curious what your perspective is on where they are with this, and if you've been able to get through. And
I would say they're just as confused as 5301. They're confused. That's what a lot of them said today. Like, man, this stuff gets really, touchy, really confusing. They basically think that they're going to lose, or a possibility that they're going to lose federal funding.
And there's no reason to believe that. I know that Amie, we've researched that. We've spoken to.
There's never been a threat.
I know.
Well, 2019, there was some language that said if you allow it, that the funds are at risk. So
at risk, but they've never made a threat directly to anybody ever. It becomes policy, but they've never actually made the threat.
And then it became a concern for a school district in Maine, of course, has lots of medical marijuana patients or whatever in the midst of whatever program that was being affected or funded. And they said, hey, we can't have that because we allow it here. And so then it just became, as long as you don't use those funds to support using it,
right,
nothing gets in the way. So they are trying to posture that, but that to me is kind of smoke and mirrors, just trying to get votes by trying to kind of out of fear, chill effect.
Representatives and senators do all day long is try and find ways to get money from the federal government so they don't have to spend it on a state level. And if they value drug courts and federal funding goes away, the representatives look like the state's going to be on the hook for that kind of cash, and they don't want to be. So they're not going to try and threaten the financing for that. And as Adam and Amie and Jamie have all pointed out, the threat's not real. But I mean, the House of Representatives lives on illusion and lies. So it's not a surprise that kind of a misnomer would easily spread. Not a surprise at all.
Mhm.
So Rick, what about you? Any feedback from the lawmakers who you've been able to have this conversation with? Do you think you've gotten to some people, change their minds? Do you think some people are already kind of on our side on this?
Yeah, I think we have quite a few House representatives very familiar. It feels very familiar to the other House bills that have been stopped. I feel like many of them are going to be leaning towards us on our side. But as Amie pointed out, Yancey was a surprise to me.
But that was a committee vote. And I'll be honest, these people are such horse traders that I could see saying, you know what, I'll vote it out of committee, but that's all you get from me.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't believe
Because
anything.
I need your support for something else I'm going to do later.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's
So
transactional politics.
Right.
Right.
Which is a problem because that same thing happens when it gets to the floor for a vote, which is why it's important for us to do what we do and hit all these representatives and target our 28.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Have the 28th all the way through lame duck too. And some of these people's loyalty, as you know, Amie, I'm pretty sure you thought Yancey was going to be a no today.
I did.
And
I was
then
surprised.
it popped up as a yes. Those kind of surprises happen all the time.
So we can still.
Well, it makes
and
me
it is
wonder.
possible that she has a no on the floor if we have some meetings
Right.
subsequently.
And that no would have been meaningless in committee because that no would not have stopped the bill from advancing. Sometimes if people know the bill's going to advance, they vote with the majority just so they don't ruffle feathers of other people whose support they will need later on. So there's a lot of politics about even the voting. Even if you know you oppose a bill, the politics of voting is so dirty, so muddy, so Pornhubby. Ugh.
Yeah, well, he's going to be a part of that one day. So
I do have one ask though. I was talking to Richard today, and he said we need to all email Dana Nessel on these testimonies that we're gonna, have everybody write. So everybody write to your rep, and also include Dana Nessel in that email because 5512 is something that she should be knowledgeable of, and she needs to know where we stand on it.
Yeah,
And
right.
her
I let our legislative liaison know about it when I first became aware of it personally, but she does need to hear from a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Communicating with your elected officials and sometimes with the unelected but yet still very powerful officials. That's important. Andrew Brisboe is another one of those who's an unelected yet very powerful official. And we certainly went and spoke to the Marijuana Regulatory Agency on Wednesday of last week, Amie, talking about the remediation bill. It was also an opportunity for everybody to speak about their feelings on the Marijuana Regulatory Agency. These quarterly meetings are designed to take some criticism. And there were a couple of women there that really didn't care for the way that Detroit has handled cannabis in its city. And they weren't really in our court. They were saying there's a proliferation of cannabis businesses, and that when they go to the city, they see that the city's rubber stamping some of these.
Here's Brandy reminding us that a vote out of committee does not mean it's going to get support on the floor.
That's true, and it doesn't indicate does not indicate a representative's.
Oh yeah, and the Anthony reminds me the show Chad Watch started today, and I did watch it.
Oh yeah.
Started at 1 o'clock, went to about 1:45. They introduced themselves. Kyle Miller from Eastern Craft, and Chris Silva, who works with Redemption now, has been in the industry for a little bit. Both those guys helped us out a lot with the legalization campaign.
16 and 18, yeah.
And their focus is these people coming in who don't know anything about cannabis with a bunch of money and affecting things in the way that we don't want them to necessarily.
Yeah, self-proclaimed experts that try to push their weight around because they think that since they bought a license through Lansing, that means they now know everything and get to dictate who gets to stop and start.
Which is absolute bullshit because it's all on the backs of every one of us, and we got to stand up and scream that at them.
So we do have the benefit this time around again. Rick mentioned kind of like 5301. They're trying to change the act. So that's a supermajority vote. That means the amount of no's that we need are a lot less than a regular majority, than a simple majority. And that gives us a little bit of help, with that. And we're going to have to pour it on. Yeah. So the now that's gone out of committee, there's more likely these offices are going to become aware of this, especially if there's some discussion about it being called up on the floor, which it might. They might be trying to move it through while the confusion is still in the air. And
is this something that we have to further act on, like the bridge walk and like the rallies and like the dinners?
I think at least at bare minimum, people contact their own reps, and maybe a lobby day scenario would be good and direct. This has got to get 2 decision makers in 27, 28 of them to say no.
Right.
However we have those meetings, however we get that information to them. We're starting already, but they'll be more open to these meetings now that it's passed out of committee.
Right.
I will say before you might get a response that says, well, it's in committee right now, so I don't know. So I'm not on that committee.
And if you're not one of the 9 reps that's on that committee, then it's really not important to you because it's not something it's an issue before you. But just so our viewers who are not familiar with the process, once a bill is voted out of a House committee, it has to have a vote of the entire House. If it passes there, it goes to the Senate, where it has a vote in the Senate committee, similar to what happened in the House, and then a vote of the entire Senate. And then if there's any differences, they get reconciled, and then it goes to the governor's office. So there really is, in the House of Representatives, no additional time for us to go and give public testimony on camera to actual people. The only way we can contribute at this particular point is to lobby those lawmakers.
And Jen is thinking that we should perhaps have a protest.
The biggest thing we can do is contacting our reps, because once they know the people are paying attention, they will respond.
Yeah.
That's what really
We've seen that
helped us out.
before.
I'm not against a protest, but definitely that we need to focus in on getting the decision makers to be knowledgeable and making better decisions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amie.
And I
Get in there.
Sorry.
With 5301, when we had asked to everybody contact their representatives, they were swamped with calls. Like, we did good. We did really good. So we got to do that again. They need to know that every time something comes up like this, we're going to be there. We're watching. And if you didn't write a letter to your representative, and don't just write a letter and call. Right. And write another letter and call. And write all the reps, because the more we communicate with them, the more that they're going to listen. So, I mean, we did a good job, but we need to do it all over again with this one. And I'll see if Latricia can put some templates onto Michigan Weed Stirs, just to give people an idea of what it should say, or what, a lot of people don't
That's a good idea.
contact their reps on a normal basis, but maybe we'll put some templates out there so it will, make it easier for them.
The the National ASA site, safeaccessnow.org, as well as the National NORML site, NORML.org, both have write a letter to your representatives thing. It's super easy. You can send the same letter to both House and Senate representatives. It's based on your zip code that knows exactly who your right person is, and it gives you that whole template there too. So you don't have to, when we say write a letter, you don't have to go out and buy a stamp. Most of us don't use stamps anymore. You don't have to have an envelope or anything, but you do have to put a little bit of time into it. These assistance tools make it a lot less time.
We would show up at meetings quite often with paper and stamps and envelopes and say, hey, we need to get at least 10 or 12, letters out to these guys here.
In 2010 at Big Daddy's, we had a jar that said stamp fund. So it was a tip jar at our bud tender's place. So people would put it in there so we could afford stamps for our self-addressed stamped envelopes that we would have with them. Yeah.
The other thing is, if you send that letter and you make that call, pay attention to when their coffee hours are back in their districts.
Yeah.
Once you make that initial contact, feel obligated to go meet them somewhere and say, I wrote you a letter and I haven't heard back, or I left a message with you.
As they did last summer, the MCMA is going to continue to lobby these people all through the summer, and that's a time when they're hanging out back in their home districts and doing a lot of those
to give them
outreach to the community and their constituents, as Adam's talking about. It's a good time because we need to keep it up during those times too.
It's election year. This is when they care about us. Election years.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. If you eat shitty food at restaurants, or you smoke dispensary weed, hold off for a day, take that money, put it in a check, and when you go to the coffee, say, hey, it's not much, but I'd like to donate to your campaign. Mm-hmm. And they're going to say, who are you, the weed guy? Hold on, what issue did you want me to look into? Oh, yeah.
Well, I can tell you, Brad Paquette is, I believe he's a Republican. but he does seem to be strongly on the caregiver side and the small business opportunity in this industry. He's slowly beginning to understand and seek out some understanding in this industry. One of the things he's doing that I'm impressed with is he's coming to a cannabis-oriented golf outing that I'm holding. So
Nice.
his attendance there and playing, I think, says a lot.
It helps to
So-
normalize it. That's what we need. So Sunshine Daisy, and also gives you more opportunity to discuss rationally these things and help him to have the discussion with other people and all that kind of stuff. But the GC3 and some other places address these bills, had meetings on them and stuff, and had a campaign to get word out to lawmakers. And it seems as though they had some action there. So that's always
We
cool.
had Henry Yanez come out to Extravaganza too, and he ended up being a House rep. Go ahead, Adam.
Understand that these things really work. Those of us that have been doing this for 30 freaking years, we've seen that grassroots nowadays is huge. When 5 or 10 or 30 people contact their legislators about one issue, that's massive.
Yeah.
Because nobody contacts these people about anything.
Brandy's saying that Michigan ACE will have some postcards ready to send to reps at the level. There's going to be some nonprofit booths on the diag, and ACE will be one of them. That'll be one of the things that they do. That's a good one.
Excellent.
Yeah, because we're going to be talking about these stupid ass bills. You know,
We do need a
many-
stamp fund, everybody.
Yeah.
Save your pennies for a stamp fund. Go ahead, Adam. You're going to finish up.
No, just that the ability to make change doesn't take a lot of people. It takes a big effort. The nice thing about our effort is we have a lot of people. So it gets spread out on the backs of many. And we actually are a much larger voice if we would only speak up. And literally, we got representatives to tell people that wasn't their office they were calling because they were getting so many phone calls about 5301 that they started saying, no, this isn't his office.
Those are more people that were for it, that were trying to avoid the
Yeah.
backlash of taking such a stupid ass position on the bill. But
I mean, we can make change. It's not that hard. You just got to be proactive.
Well, one of the things that it's sad that people don't believe in government very much anymore, but what that does mean is that it takes a smaller number of people to be a bigger influence, as Adam just said. So right now, 50 people on the horn, 50 people's a rock and roll concert to those folks.
Well,
So-
and the other thing is, Amy's running for office, and it's going to take a lot of work to get those votes. If you want to get involved, I encourage everybody to run for their local school board. It takes the least amount of votes to get elected in any community. School board is that position. You can work your way up through local politics and build your name, and it makes the trek a lot easier. The nice thing is Amie has some history behind her, and she'll have some name recognition thanks to her push for Jaden and Jaden's Law. So
Somewhere around here, I've still got one of those postcards we sent out from Mac. Remember back in 10 and 11, Jamie, we sent postcards to Bill Schuette, I think, and we were told that as soon as they came in, they put them right in the garbage and never showed them to them. But we had thousands of postcards, big red. They were red. You couldn't ignore them. They were bright red.
we did an earlier version of ACE that did a nice stack of them too for some issue going on. I forgot exactly what we were attacking at that time. So many different things over the years. But looks like we're going to do it again. And Brandy was pointing out that the idea of like watching those things stack up on the desk, be a physical thing that shows up would be good. I'm not sure if I got to this one though, because we're talking about the protest. Good for media, applying pressure on the lawmakers. And sometimes it can be. Yep, I agree with that. Maybe we'll decide we want to do that.
A weak protest can have the opposite effect, though. If you have 10 people that show up for a protest, it doesn't really show a lot of community interest, and then lawmakers don't really think that your issue is going to matter that much to their constituents.
And I'm not taking away from the idea of a rally. They have time and place and stuff, and I think the one that happened last year was good and timely and was helpful in a lot of ways. But a lot of us have, and you know, not always. It's not like this, you know, snap your fingers and you get some attention or something like that. But when there's something of note, or something that has, you know, some depth and interest and, you know, possible consequence, and there's a lot of people concerned about it, and it's an active thing going on that can be pointed to, we can alert press and let them know about it. We don't need to earn media via necessarily assembling, you know, en masse, although that is cool, but we don't have to do that necessarily. And sometimes it's not best just to do it that way. You know, these things are all a kind of a circumstantial scenario. I think I dig the idea of rally, but it has to like be the right place, right time. Go ahead, Adam.
The problem is, at this point, in order to do a rally, you need to do an impressive rally. You can't do
They've seen big rallies before, yeah.
And you're not going to do a big rally until the end of May, June, July. The weather in Michigan just doesn't work. And you know, once we get to that time of the year, maybe it might be needed depending on what's going on. But at this point, you can't even plan for that. You just don't have enough. We don't know what's going on to plan for something like that. And that's where we got the ball rolling back a year ago when we had the rally at Lansing. That really made this effort a lot easier now, because people are looking out for this cause. They're paying attention to what bills are coming forward and what do we need to do. And what we need to do is we need to contact these representatives and say, we know that this stuff's on in the House and it could be brought up for a vote, and this is how we feel about it.
Yeah.
That's the protest that's needed at this point. It's not just showing that we're in support, because we could bring out a lot more people than we will be able to get phone calls.
Yep. And it's valuable to note, as someone mentioned, I'm sorry, I didn't see the comment card previously. Someone mentioned that we had, I think maybe it was Brandy. At the time that we had the rally, they just introduced House Bill 5300 through 5302, which are the very hated anti-caregiver bills here in the state of Michigan. So we had fresh blood in the water for us to complain about. It's and
there was double media attention because people were reporting on those bills and the fact that we were in protest. So
we got a lot of rhythm out of that. But when there's no recent action to spur the protest, when we just do it, you know, because we're just fed up, and there's no corresponding legislative move to report on, we don't get as much attention. We don't
have that Linder machine working on our behalf.
Oh my God. Yep. I know. Hiding Steve.
Imagine that. Other people are seeing this guy and he's getting our story told.
Yeah.
There's no billionaires feeding him lots of money to make sure this gets done or whatever they're fucking proclaiming before the check gets written.
And so far he's created the grassroots movement that was dormant. He brought them back out all by himself.
This is the negative consequence of being a big personality in cannabis, is that when you do stupid things, you really inspire people to not like you. And when you do a series of stupid things and it's clear it's for payola, then all of a sudden you are the pariah that Adam just described. Mr. Linder currently not taking a very big profile. Looks like he might be potentially under some investigation with one of the former speakers of the House for perhaps recruiting dark money from sources for Republican campaigns, some of which almost assuredly came directly from the cannabis industry, no doubt.
Which I would think would be reason enough for us to want this stuff to happen as soon as possible.
Yep. So as far as we know, he's going to keep his head down for a while, and his organization still thrives on, though. It's led by the very capable, very intelligent Shelley Edgerton, and she is actually better with media than Steve because she doesn't make mistakes like he does. He's arrogant, and
she's competent.
She's
right,
and very well connected too.
Former
and very
director
well understanding of all the systems around Lansing that you need to know how to like attack these things.
Well, she's the ultimate bureaucrat.
She was a good hire.
Former director of the Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulation, which is the highest agency in charge of the medical program here in Michigan. She was the top pot person in the state for several years.
And of course, we've been criticizing her lately, and rightfully so, because she has shown up and given testimony and have been quoted in the paper about the desperate and urgent need for there to be testing for caregiver cannabis that goes to their connected patients. Meanwhile, she oversaw the department that Rick just mentioned while commercial cannabis was getting rolled out, and Emergency 19 was established for caregivers to bring cannabis into the stores for there to be inventory, as their slow rollout was making it too difficult and the cultivators weren't able to supply, and it was done in lieu of all that. And there were no issues. There were some people abusing that system without there being some, limitations and definitions. We think that was more the big money interest, though, bringing in the several thousand pounds and that kind of stuff, and not the caregivers causing the problem in that situation.
Right. That was the naivete of the system that didn't know what they were up against and didn't really know how to work with, the rules they were making.
It's just disingenuous for her to have had that experience, and that went on for a while. I mean, there was a nice sample time for there to be, if there was going to be a problem, for there to be one, and people still tested. They weren't mandated to, but they still did. They still submitted. I mean, however well the protocol was received, for however that test was made. I mean, it's different than what the official way is after that all got started. But anyway, there was still a good faith effort to demonstrate that there wasn't shit in it, or that you could explain what was going on inside the plant.
There's no history of health consequences. That's all.
And the standards were kind of like are through the regular caregiver system. Many of those people have self-adopted high standards and taken some pride in the products and understand to be competitive. Those things show up.
Well, that's the problem with allowing bureaucrats into our system that are able to work within government and then move into the private sector and take that knowledge with them and use it against whoever or whatever they're fighting for.
Kind of suggestive that they were having an inappropriate relationship while someone was still in a regulatory position, right?
And making caregivers, I'm sorry, just through Entheo here, getting any testing at all is unnecessarily burdensome, even if it was cheaper. But yes, the idea, the fact that you would just, that's their point, is to make it more difficult.
We simply don't have enough testing capability in the state. There's 33,000, I think, caregivers registered right now. If each one of them tested each of their strains, because each strain has to be tested separately in a batch or in a garden, rather. I mean, there would be no time for them to test regulated market cannabis either. It's a fail program.
Well, the other issue is that after all those tests were run, the way testing works, the knowledge that's gained and the percentages and the way it works, they would have different outcomes 30,000 tests or 30,000 caregivers later than they do now. Yeah, they would, that's the way it works, and it's a sample up against other samples. So,
low cost, accurate tests would be nice for consumers. That's true, but within the caregiver context, as long as they're not mandated.
Let's let Rick Anstiss get in. Rick, you were trying to say something a moment ago.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the testing goes, I agree. Even I was just recently in the recreational space and dealing with the MRA and these things. If the testing can't even be across the board, then why are we even doing it? Like it, you know what I'm saying? If we don't have a process or a method that is synchronized and comes out with a actual real result that will mimic itself regardless, then what the hell are we doing, right? What are we testing? Is it accurate?
Well, my main concern, or the main concern for consumers on a commercial basis that don't have the ability to know the person who has the small garden, or has the small garden themselves, there has to be some vetting process that makes that person feel comfortable that there's no contaminants in it. So as far as like the different THC numbers different companies will get because they use different baselines or have different methods, and because there isn't, a universal system in place, that's a thing, and we should do something about that. Some people have suggested using the international standards, that everybody just uses that, then we'd all be on the same page, stuff like that. But the concept of saying that there's no pesticides or things that you don't want in there, that can be done straightforwardly, without any of that, or without any need for getting on the same page, the same thing like that. So testing for me is important for that, at least. I mean, the rest of the information I would like to have, but I'd also like to have it consistent.
Good, Rick.
Right.
Well, here's what I'll tell you is that we know that in the state, not all testing companies test the same way. We know the Veritas method was used to by the Veritas company, a proprietary system which consistently yielded higher THC numbers, which directly, translate into greater marketability for the cannabis. But there are no national testing standards either. So cannabis that's grown in Missouri that might pass Missouri's testing standards might not pass Michigan's testing standards. So what we're saying is that what's healthy in Missouri would be unhealthy in Michigan. The fact that we have such strict testing standards here as a result of the testing industry affecting the testing bill in 2016 with the MMFLA. It's pretty remarkable how tough it is.
So in terms of Theo's question here, that right now there are companies, it can't be officially proclaimed, USADA or whatever the organization is, organic. They won't do that for cannabis, but there are places that will mimic and exceed those standards and certify that as a third party anyway, that the place is following these things. And then some people think that that's good and want to buy those products because they were grown organically. Apothecary is one of the places that does that, and they sell a line of organic flower to places so they can offer that to those. That's how that works now. I mean, if you're suggesting mandating doing that, I don't agree with that, but I do like the idea that people are trying to fill that niche in the market and satisfy people that want organically grown cannabis.
Not all of these certifications carry equal weight either. Rick, you were trying to jump in there, bud.
No, go ahead. You're okay. Good.
So, in what Jamie just described as an alternate system to what we have in the regular market. I mean, go into the grocery store, you can look for a consistent seal on oranges and apples and on breakfast cereal and bread, right? That USDA organic, but we're the wicked stepchild. We don't get that, so we have to come up with these alternate methods. I'm concerned when I hear companies that are selling their services in order to give you a stamp of approval that says you're some kind of badass, because essentially that's a company that's selling their services, and without any kind of accreditation standard, there's no guarantee that what they're doing is not just offering a stamp of approval for a payola scenario. But you know what, I like Apothecary stuff. I certainly have a lot of respect for Anthony and the crew down there, what they do. I just think this is another opportunity, not that this is, but there's another opportunity for scam artists and sharks to come into our industry and take advantage of people.
And
really watch.
Right on. Yep. And also what Theo's saying here too, for there to be more recognition of what that means, formally in the system. I agree with that too.
Right.
Let's decide what that is.
One of the things I wanted to add to what Rick was mentioning is that the craziness of the testing and what's allowed and what's not allowed in different places and all that. The craziest example of that I found was out in California, where you have a state testing level, and then the city of Berkeley decided that they wanted a testing level that was stricter than the state level.
Are you kidding me? Did they really?
Yeah. So you can have, if it's 400 ppms, 450 statewide, it's only 450. It's only 400 in Berkeley. But that's the type of shit that Berkeley does. We understand that.
You got to hit the Berkeley standard.
I don't know if so they have to opt in. That doesn't mean that they can just straight up create more restrictions. I don't think
in Michigan's law, but Cali might be different.
Cali's different.
No, I'm not sure if they could do that in Michigan. I'm not sure. You're talking about California. I'm sorry. When you say Berkeley, I'm picturing. I'm sorry. I was just talking about the Michigan city of Berkeley.
He was thinking Berkeley, Michigan, as opposed to Berkeley, California.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. Okay,
which is right around the corner from where Adam's at right now. So,
yes.
But the point is that those type of things and those type of misunderstandings of not understanding what that we're talking about here and influences are really what we're up against, because it's all about changing the misinformation. Yeah. So,
well, I'm sorry.
Shit, man.
We're talking about the misunderstanding and local authorities trying to be more harsh than the state. Jen Bronson was on earlier. I know that she's done a lot of work talking to local municipalities. She had just kind of a disappointing experience in Mundy Township the other day, where she thought it was a first reading of an ordinance. Turned out it was a second reading of the ordinance, and they went ahead and passed it. And now we have no opportunity to do anything until they they try an enforcement action on one of their citizens. Go ahead, Rick. Let's see.
Yeah. Why you got a connection? Let's go.
Yeah. No, it hurts the growers as well. With the inconsistency of the testing, because somebody with a passion like myself and many other growers, we love our plants. We know what I'm going to be able to get out of it so I can treat my patient in accordance. Not everybody grows for that, but there's a lot of people that do and care. If the test results,
that's just really
Man,
a shame. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think he was going on with the point that if you can't rely on all the data that comes through these tests, or it's different from one to one, what are you really basing this information on? And it's kind of a complex
he
answer.
He can't improve as a grower. He can't improve himself.
Right. Well, the other thing is it just underscores the need for people to use the caregiver system, because you have a one-to-one face-to-face relationship with the person who's cultivating. You can find out directly for your own purposes what's going on with your plants, as opposed to, a situation where you're relying on someone else who grows, miles and miles and miles away that you'll never meet and never see. And there's no direct communication. You don't have any confidence if testing isn't to be trusted. So, Rick, let's try again, man.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. That's what I was getting at. I can't be better as a grower, and I can't provide a quality medicine to my patient that's accurate if I can't rely on myself. So,
sort of sounds like a banjo.
Yeah, the bad connection, that sucks. But he did get it up into for us to kind of understand what's going on. And I appreciate that. And
he's rocking the purple shirt, so you got to like that.
I just want to bring back up again the 55-12 discussion and what this judge was saying to help put it in perspective. I'm not sure if I tagged this in when we were talking about it before. I know that I mentioned that they want to investigate every single person that wants to use medical marijuana and that kind of stuff, which in itself. But they were saying stuff during this meeting like, we know these people want to gain on the system, and there's all these mills and and shit like that.
Very distrustful.
These are talking points from the previous campaign.
Remember? Right, and in regular courts up until now.
This was the municipal league before they came out with the current campaign that they have. This is what when they went after the doctor-patient relationship. It's the same talking points. It just shows how slow and how far behind these judges are in this court system.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
Adam, when we were speaking to the judge, it was just like 2015. It was like before the MMFLA was passed. It was as if there was no state authorization for cannabis at all. And he was still in the mindset that we need to deny people going through drug court all addictive substances and the access to it. And now we're kind of frustrated that we have to even consider cannabis too. So we're going to make an impossible standard. By the way, when you mention, let's just have the doctor come into court and testify, understand what that means. If a doctor takes a weekday out of his schedule to come to your far distant courtroom to be able to testify, imagine how much you have to compensate that doctor. How that person who's, by the way, going through drug court and probably has no bucks left at all. How are they going to compensate the doctor for doing that if they could even get the physician to agree? So the judge we spoke to seemed to be of the opinion that by setting the standard, most people wouldn't be able to hit it, and they would just choose not to use drug court. So they wouldn't have to have as many of our cannabis people in their system.
Yeah, that's why that good legislation must include cannot be denied drug court, because he kept on saying, you have to be selected. You can apply, but you have to be selected, so you can't be denied just because you're a cannabis patient, or ought not to be able to be denied just because you're a cannabis patient.
Of course, they can always find other reasons to deny you. But the fact is, look, we win by small degrees. Okay, we win small victories because there's no way society lets us win a huge war at once. So it's these little victories, like the People v. Toohey case. That was a victory for us. And for those listeners and viewers who aren't familiar with it, in Michigan, People v. Toohey last year said that the court system could not disallow you the right to use medical marijuana if you had a state-approved registration card, which meant that you've been recommended for cannabis use by an MD, by a doctor, an actual real doc. So that was a very big turning point. The courts had not allowed people to utilize that. Adam, you talked about that a little bit earlier. You want to go off on that a bit more? Talked about how Oakland County refused to allow people to even mention that they were medical marijuana patients.
Yeah, when there was back 2011 when I went to court, and they raided my house. They wanted my card. They photographed my card into evidence. It was all part of their investigation. And then when we get to court, they file a motion right away. And they had done this before. We knew they had done this in Oakland County. Right away, they file a motion that says you can't use the words medical marijuana at trial or at any part of the case, which meant that I wasn't going to be able to say, hey, I'm a medical patient, and that's why I had what I had in my house, which wasn't all that much, but it was certainly more than they thought I was allowed under any medical law. So it's like they're using the law against you, and then they don't let you use the law. And in your defense.
You, as many, Adam, had like a really competent, well-respected, high-powered attorney. I think, who was it, Zabo or somebody? Like somebody who was pretty major, if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, I had a few attorneys. I ended up hiring a former prosecutor.
Was that Zabo?
No, it was. Okay. Oh shit! I'm sorry, I can't remember his name because I'm high at the moment. But he was a former Oakland County prosecutor, and I interviewed him because I had a lawyer that fucked me. Imagine that. And this
Paul Tylenda?
No, it was not.
Okay, good. Paul Tylenda joins us as not the person who fucked Adam Brook.
The lawyer.
I don't think even on Tinder they admit to that if it happened. So
yeah, we would.
They did, but at Paul Tylenda will tell you at Big Daddy's, one of the first things they did was line us all up when they raided us and photographed our medical cards and our IDs and made sure that everybody there was legit to be there or not legit to be there, so they could charge us.
Right. But my guy, he's in Costa Rica, so he's not a threat anymore. But the point is, he had told the prosecutor that I would eventually plead out if they stuck to their guns. And after I fired him, I went and met with this other guy, and he literally in his office picked up the phone and called the Satan bitch herself and asked her if she would drop the felony firearms. And she said she wouldn't drop it for President Obama himself.
It's a reference to Jessica Cooper, former Oakland.
No, that was Beth Hand.
Or Beth Hand? Okay, well.
Oh, yeah.
The left hand of death. Okay.
Yes. So that meant that we were definitely going down for 2 years. So that was what ended up happening, was a gun charge. But, they dropped all the weed charges because they didn't care about that stuff. This was the easy, hey, look at another notch in our belt charge for Oakland County. And they, I could have easily beat the case had I been allowed to go in and use the words medical marijuana, simply because their investigation, no matter what it was, would have led to medical marijuana, and they didn't find anything. So,
it's funny, Adam, you bring up, you touch upon, let's say, years and years of policy out of Oakland County, and one of their policies had to do with, they weren't afraid to go to trial because everything went to trial, and they forced the trial because they weren't offering people plea deals.
So
to essentially get them down to a reasonable plea deal that any lawyer would tell them, essentially, hey, cut bait and get out of here. The problem with that is that they would only really move with appellate work. And I had a whole lot of cases where it was just like, oh, well, I went to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals came back with something. And if that doesn't change your ability to fight the case, I'm going to find another issue to go back there and essentially kick the can at a chance because that your judges won't agree with me. So we've got to go to the higher court to agree. And I've had some of those situations to where, the can gets kicked far enough down the road where they're just like, okay, fine, we will give you what you want, which is to get rid of the mandatory minimums and push you on through. I mean, I had a case that lasted 7 years. We went to the Court of Appeals, I think 2 or 3 times on it. And it was enough to finally force their hand to get rid of all the gun charges and leave my guy with just the marijuana charge.
Right. No, and
it was
I certainly get that. And to be honest, I was screwed originally 20 some years ago by Dick Thompson, who mandated no more plea bargains and even said in the newspaper that he was tired of Detroiters coming into Oakland County, committing crimes, and then plea bargaining their gun crimes into nothing. And what he meant was young black males. That's what he meant, but he couldn't say it. So I happened to have run afoul and had a gun on me and was working in a place, and whatever the case was, doesn't matter. But I should have been given a 7411. I should have been given all kinds of options to get rid of this gun charge when it first happened. And Oakland County had a policy of no plea bargains, and that lasted to this day. They're pretty tough, if you ask me, and things are a lot better than they used to be.
Dick Thompson, no relation. Just
No,
such.
sorry. I should have said that.
Perhaps by behavior, but certainly not by genetics.
This guy was such an ass.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
Oakland County's a rough spot, which I think is funny because I was just in Ferndale and Hazel Park.
Oh, so many dispensaries, huh?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, Paul, there was a stretch of time, though, that you mentioned that we had to go to the appellate court in order to get anything done, especially with Oakland County. Paul's
Split as
gone.
soon as you started talking to him, but
I know that happens a lot. I thought it was a party. So women do that mostly.
Didn't the Michigan Supreme Court make note of that at a case that they said that during arguments, the Michigan Supreme Court said that Oakland County's brought us multiple
frequent
flyers.
frequent flyers.
That's
Yeah,
what
right.
it was.
So the fact is that here in Michigan, we took 17, 18, 19 cases to the appellate court, lost on each and every one of them in a row, as the appellate court was clearly stacked against it. And this is just an example of when the system doesn't want to change, it resists change. The ballot initiative in 2008 was the people forcing medical marijuana upon a system that didn't want to change. And that appellate string of losses is what it looks like when the system says, fuck you, voters. We're still in the Stone Age, right, Paul?
That's right. That's right. It's remarkable too how some of these offices and the like, the policies will change, but the people won't. So you have these old hags that stick around and enforce old policies. And for the first time with the new prosecutor in Oakland County, there was a movement to say, hey, this old shit doesn't work, and that's the reason why the new boss is here, is to clean out all these old guard, if you will. Let's see. Do you think the prosecution strategy is to rack up big legal fees for the defendant to force a plea deal? That's always part of it, right? That the government can always win the game of patience. They can always win the game of resources, and they can always win the game of long term. But yes, the fact of driving up lawyers' fees is often an impetus to get someone to quit because it's the cost of moving forward. Some people look at it as a business decision.
Duplicative motions, unnecessary motions, ridiculous delays, which simply stretch things out. Yes, those are all tactics and actions used by prosecutors in order to force people to cave when they were otherwise strong.
Well, and there's always a pattern too. It's always like we're going to go hard, and then traction slips for one reason or another, and they seem to offer you this parachute to get out. And a lot of that's their show that says, okay, well, we went hard. We don't either care or we can't substantiate those charges anymore. We've got to find a way out. We've got to get away to get our conviction and send you home. And we saw this with all these cases where, we got these huge multi-felony cases and it's such a big deal. And then a couple of years later, they're just like, hey, why don't you take a 7411 and go home? And a lot of it's just to get the result that they want, so they can check the box of conviction and move on. It's also where you get, with convictions, especially throughout history, conviction allowed you to proceed with forfeiture. Conviction allowed you to, keep money or keep some on the hook or keep your hooks into them at that point. There was also a policy, which I always thought was funny that a lot of people couldn't appreciate, and even a lot of lawyers didn't understand, is that when the prosecutor gets your file, they ultimately already have their mind made up in advance of how they're going to deal that file out, regardless of who shows up. right? So a lot of attorneys like to beat their chest and say, "Oh,
Wow, a lot of attorneys do like to beat their chest.
What a cliffhanger, man.
No, I can't wait.
Insane.
What happens when we go,
I
oh,
went there and
There he
I
is.
There he is.
sorry."
Hey, so
I
the
went there and
cliffhanger
I
was
beat my
attorneys
chest
like
and
to
I got you the
you got to
best
beat the
news.
chest. Yeah, right after that. What do they say as
Awesome.
they're beating their chest? That's what we need
Can
to
you
know.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No? Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. All right. But you beat my chest and I get the best deal. And that's lawyer bravado, right? That whole you better hire me or the world collapses type of approach. I've been in situations where clients got a big uphill battle. We fight, negotiate. I tell the client this is what their offer is, and let's talk about it. Well, the client thinks that talking about the offer is somehow conceding and quitting, and they'll fire me and go hire some big billboard named somebody, and a year later we'll go on, and all of a sudden, guess what they pled to? That same exact thing that was the very first offer, and it happens every single time. I had a client one time offer, and the offer wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. He then fired me, hired 3 former prosecutors with all big names and the like, and 2 years went by, and the result was exactly the same thing that they offered me. And I even got a call from the prosecutor saying, "Hey, remember how we talked about what happened? Guess what just happened?"
In some respects, they should
know
feel lucky that they
You
still
know,
get
I've had
that same deal.
prosecutors tell other attorneys, "You're like, you think you're going to get better with what Tylenda did? It's the same thing. File says the same thing. Your last name doesn't mean anything, doesn't affect the case."
You spend more money on somebody else and take some more time to just come back around to the original deal, and it could have been all over with. And
but
he left again.
part,
But
well, isn't part of this though that when you don't think that you're going to get completely off, that your dream is a little bit shattered, and then you're sort of angry at the messenger. Here you've got an attorney that says, "Look, it's time for us to talk about it. Maybe we should talk about the deal a little bit," and suddenly.
And when people lay down money sometimes, though, it hardly even matters what the attorney tells them. Sometimes they have an image in their head, and if it's not met, it's the attorney's fault.
The system is set up to break.
You have that, Paul. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you actually explain to the client. They have a certain well, he's gone. I'm sure he would agree, though. It's kind of almost rhetorical to say that to him. but we've been joined by Josey Scoggin in the meantime, and
she's a Paul Tylenda fan. I know that. Yes.
Yeah, she is. And Paul's been doing a lot of work for GLEN, and actually helping out with a lot of logistics and the treasure hunt to some respect, weighing in on making decisions with that with us. It's been cool. And now, though, last week we were talking about this. We were getting it hyped up. We were trying to set people up for pre-orders. And people went to the site, and it turns out we got booted because we talked about pot on it or something like that. So we had to find a different ticket site. And then since then too, we have the maps actually physically printed, so they can still be pre-ordered, but they can also be physically purchased, and they're going to start getting distributed to places to do that soon. So we want to make sure everybody knows about what they can do to get in on this. You have to unmute Josey.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. This is an incredible way to experience Hash Bash, especially if you're doing it the first time. But honestly, if you like free weed, this is the map for you, man. Nothing says Ann Arbor like Hash Bash. I think that last night at Medical Mondays, you guys were talking about it. And it all stands true, right? So there's 6 different provisioning centers, all with penny gifts. It's everything from rosin to pre-rolls, flour, and edibles. So everything that a little bit of everything for everybody. Also, Smoke Shop, Stairway to Heaven, and Bongs and Thongs are giving some fun prizes, some store credits, some discounts as well. Make sure you stop in and get the 420 Hash Bash pancake special at Jagged Fork, and visit Vertex Coffee for a discount. What's really cool is once you fill out all of the spots, you can be entered into our giveaway. Top prize is a getaway to Ann Arbor. Come on back. Tour the Mary Jane tours. If you don't know, that is a cannabis party bus in Ann Arbor.
Anthony Freed, we've had him on here, and we've gone to the store and participated in it and all types of stuff. It is pretty cool.
So that includes dinner and hotel stay and the whole shebang, and then gives you a chance to visit all your favorite dispensaries. Lots of other great prizes. totaling.
And this is for people that decide to go pick all the stuff up over the weekend.
Right,
I mean, you can use the discounts and get your stuff like that for a while, I believe. But like, as far as those who choose to do the whole thing over the weekend get entered into for these prizes.
Yeah, and you know, when I did this, I called my friends to see if it was a good idea. I didn't know if I was hyping it up, if I was like thinking that this is like the shit, right? But I called Adam, and Adam was like, "This is cool, Josey. This is awesome." You know, like every time we had a meeting with somebody, they were like, they got it instantly. They were into it. There's not a lot of opportunity for us. We always have to be creative when we're trying to make money in terms of in the nonprofit field and in an industry that has a lot of great products to sell, right? So I'm not selling weeds and not making as much money as what some of these other guys are. We really want to capitalize on Hash Bash Weekend. I think everybody does, and every year we look for a creative idea for that. But this was not my idea, right? So this was an idea that was crafted and created by our membership director, Crystal. Crystal came in after getting her record expunged. She went through our program. It was a great experience for her. She decided to start interning with us. Now she's our membership director. She has been a phenomenal asset. And, you know, there's certain things. I have working on the legalization campaign gave me this idea that there are people out there that have skills and want to do good in their community, and nobody is utilizing them. And Crystal is definitely one of those. So I'm super lucky. Please go get your goddamn maps. I don't have a lot of them. There's not a whole bunch available. So
they are going to be available in the stores.
They are,
possibly
yes.
as early as tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes, as long as Jamie delivers them, no pressure.
I am going to get the dogs. They're going to come with me. And we're going to drive to Lansing. We're going to pick up the maps. And then from there,
let's talk about
to Botanical Company for a little bit. And then from there, I'm going to go to Ann Arbor and take them to all of the places that are participating.
Yeah, so that's Cureleaf, Arbor's Wellness, our friends at Arborside, a North Coast venture. Joint venture. It's a sentence. Is participating in this. I hear that they're giving out 1,000 pre-rolls from Redemption. I don't know. That's what I heard.
Is that or where is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were really excited to have Bloom City. We went to Bloom first, and we were like, we want to do this with people that have been around that really get it. And they were like, yeah, this is exactly what we want to do. So we're really lucky to be a part of that. We're also lucky to participate in all areas of Hash Bash this year, right? So we're excited to be at the Diag. We're going to be at the Monroe Street Fair. It's the 20th anniversary of that event over there. And I think that the scavenger hunt is a great opportunity for us all to get together. I am buying it for the free weed, but I'm sure there'll be lots of fun community stuff involved too.
I was on the phone with Charlie Strikemine today, and he says to me, "Did you see that cool thing Josey's doing with the map thing?" And I was like, "Yes, Charlie, I did." He's excited for you too. Everybody thinks it's a great deal. So
I know we all have our feelings about corporate cannabis, and it was really hard to participate in these city specific or things where you're limited within a certain city and not get a bunch of corporate cannabis companies, right? And so the ones that we picked, we wanted to be sure didn't have a history of creating mayhem for us and our friends in the caregiver system. It was particularly just incredible for me was Cureleaf, which is one of our stops on there, one of the top cannabis companies in terms of volume and revenue and reach, is over the wall excited about this. They're already talking about next year. They are ready. This is a sealed deal for them. This is incredible. And I know that you all have been doing Hash Bash longer than I have. And experiencing Hash Bash 20 years ago was a scary thing. I mean, there were literally, it was terrible. So I'm really excited for this. And I know that isn't something we could have done.
Is it still correct?
Yes, it is. It is correct.
It remains correct. And
don't be
that you'll go to a place that works.
Yeah, so I'm doing the e-commerce through our DonorBox account. DonorBox is a great zero fee platform for nonprofits. I've been doing it pretty consistently for all my weed stuff for a long time. It does look a little different than a typical website, but it's easy to donate there. And if you're feeling super generous and looking for ways to donate to the Great Lakes Expungement Network in addition to your map, there's a great opportunity to do that there. But speaking of donating, if you go to our Facebook page right now, pinned to the very top is Kelly's birthday fundraiser, which she so generously did for the Great Lakes Expungement Network. Oh, Manny, you can get a map right down here. Sons and
You can pre-order it there, or you can go to like.
You have to read the email, the address though, because there's a lot of people out there that won't be able to see it. Go ahead.
Sons and Daughters United.org, both plural and all one word, /# treasure hunt. It'll take you to a landing page. You can purchase the map. You can look at the giveaways, and you can see all the locations that are participating. What's incredibly unique about this opportunity that we had was it has been so well received both by us and our friends in the Hash Bash community, and the people that are buying the maps, right? The people that are interested in the whole Hash Bash experience are interested in cannabis culture and in the community that surrounds that, right? And they're not as interested in these industry things, and they probably buy all their weed from some guy in a speedway, which is great, my kind of people. So this is an opportunity for some people to see shops for the first time. If you are coming to the Great Lakes state from another state, welcome home. Congratulations. You can get a map too. So we're shipping these all over the place. So hit me up.
Right on. And we are joined by Latricia.
I heard all the excitement.
Yeah, we just haven't heard from Eapen. I assume we'd hear from him around now. Maybe he'll still come on a little bit, and we can talk about the update and the Missouri deschedule effort. But it's we're running pretty well here so far. And these things are cool, and they're $30 before or 40 day of. Is that right, Josey?
Yeah. So they're $30 before, 40 day of. They're available at Cureleaf, Arborside, Bloom City Club, Apothecary, Bonds and Thongs, Stairway to Heaven, and Ohm.
And you can pre-order here on this site.
And you can pre-order at sonsanddaughtersunited.org /# treasure hunt. This week you'll see these on sale at all of these dispensaries as well. Fun fact, Cureleaf is giving 20 maps to people who make qualified purchases. So make sure you go down there and see what that's about. Expunge your records while you're poking around on sonsanddaughtersunited.org. Click on expungement, get your record expunged, expunge your mom's record, your friend's record. Let all of the cannabis companies pay for it. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Josey, Randy Crowell reached out to me today to ask if he was expungible. I don't know. Paul's familiar with that case. Paul just raised his eyebrows a little bit. Expungible, perhaps, Paul?
I want to say so, because I believe that he was it's one of those classic old where they get you at the shop and then go to your house, an hour later or at the same time.
Very famous case from 2010.
He had the same cop that got fired for fucking around with evidence, and that cop fucked around with the evidence in the same way in his case, and that was never readdressed. Mark Furman, or whatever his name was.
Well, when was it settled? When did it all get over?
A few years ago now. I mean, it's probably the time frame is probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a 2010 or 11 event, and I think all that was wrapped up by 14 maybe. But I think so, because he might have, unless he has one of those like hodgepodge several felonies over several days and isn't entitled to the one bad night rule, then might be some issues. But I think so. I think if I remember, they were fighting those cases pretty consistently, where it was just hit them all at the same time, put all the charges all in one document.
He had jail time, but he had like a halfway decent judge. I forgot his name now.
Yeah,
but the judge actually got upset at the prosecution for like not trying to work with them, and I don't know, some other stuff. But
should I send Randy directly to Great Lakes Expungement Network with Josey, or should I?
Yeah, hit me up.
will
So
do that.
a big issue with people wanting to know what their criminal record is expungable is that just like all of Michigan, criminal records are super diverse, both in nature and in eligibility. So if your friend's DUI is expungable, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's expungable today or that your DUI is expungable, right? So there's a lot of factors involved. And I think another important factor is who your fucking judge is, right? So it's going to be a lot easier to grant expungements in some places than what it is in others. Now the burden is a lot different, and the assumed goal now is expungement, and that's different than it was 2 years ago. But the issue is oftentimes, and Paul can tell you this, filing that expungement and getting the wheels going in a way that is efficient. In a lot of these big metropolitan areas where a good percentage of Michiganders live have literally no access to a DUI expungement, meaning they call the number, nobody answers it. They request records, nobody calls them back. This is an embarrassment for the entire state of Michigan, and their $40 million expungement bullshit, where they run around the state and tell you can expunge stuff yourself, is not true. So what would be nice, though, is if they put that $40 million into staff to process these applications at a rate that made sense. If you apply for expungement today and you're somehow witchy and magical and have your fingerprints ready and you have your certified judgment of sentence, and I can fill out that application in 15 minutes and file it, I still won't see a court date for eight months. And that's what we're seeing right now. So it is not a quick fix, but just because it's not now, it doesn't mean that it's not never. 2 years ago, it was never for a lot of you.
If people go to Great Lakes Expungement Network.org, they can fill out an application and get an idea of where they stand, right? Okay.
So it goes directly to us. We usually respond pretty quickly. We'll send you a copy of your iChat. We'll also give you a referral based on an evaluation based on what the state of Michigan is holding. We don't only provide full service expungement services, which are we pay the attorneys, the notaries, the fingerprints, the whole shebang. But a big part of what we do with the network, a big chunk of our clients, is just running eligibility and saying, are you eligible? Are you not? What are the next steps? We have 8 different law firms that we work with, and we have 12 community organizations. So those folks that are making within legal care guidelines, we're able to refer those ones out. But then there's this big magnitude of people who don't qualify for financial aid, but also can't get a good job because they have a criminal record, right? So I'm so proud of the partners that we work with and all of our law firms who have agreed to honor our price for people that do referrals there. So if you do an intake with me, you don't have a cannabis charge, but you qualify, we can get you up to 75% off some of our partners. So please hit it up. Go apply, go see what's wrong. There's plenty of people all around the state that will tell you the same thing and charge you $500 to do it. So come to me and do it for free.
Nice. Hey, Joseph, also,
that's
let people know about the
risque
little Clement action in there. Tell people about the DUI conference for legal professionals coming up before we move on, and I want to get to Adam.
Okay, but it's impossible for me to talk about this without fucking bragging, because it is quite literally the coolest fucking thing I've ever done in my whole life. I'm super proud of it. So we are teaming up with the City of Lansing, Mayor Andy Schwar, Cooley Law School, and we're doing a DUI expungement seminar for legal professionals and law students. It's really incredibly difficult to figure out how these laws work. What are the handlings? It's all incredibly new. It was just passed February 19th, or at least went into effect February 19th of this year. So we're really looking forward to that. The mayor is emceeing it. There is no registration. It is in the law school lobby. Paul, can you tell us a little bit about our presenter?
Yeah, we've got Marissa Vinsky from Mary Chartier's office.
Woo!
I love Mary.
Every time I tell people Mary is involved, they're like, how did you pull that off? I'm like, haha, Paul did that.
Yeah,
great.
Paul pulled that off for us.
So Marissa and I will be essentially walking through the how-to, the ins and outs, telling some good war stories, and really trying to make it practical. That's the goal, because this is something that we all could do, right? And there are people that could look at this process and say, yeah, I don't need a lawyer for this. I can figure this out and do it myself. Some people not so much. And that's great. And that's, guidance is what we're here for. And that's the idea with the seminar, is to how to fill out these forms, how to navigate the system with what you have, because a lot of people aren't in the situation of, I got in trouble once and that's what I need gone. It's a snowball of a problem. They have to work back through history to get their record clear. And that's where I think the focus is, the easy ones are easily understood. The expansive eligibility under all these statutes now make some of this a process that you have to navigate. So it'll be great. I think it'll be great information. You're getting essentially 2 lawyers to talk for free to you and tell you exactly how to make money at your job. So I don't think anybody's going to object to that.
And this isn't our only municipality that we work with at the Great Lakes Expungement Network. So we did 100% of the misdemeanor marijuana charges through the Kalamazoo County expungement fair at Bronson Park last August. So we took all of those misdemeanor marijuana charges, we filed those, and we did those for free. We provided that service to the city. We also have an upcoming expungement fair with the city of Benton Harbor on May 12th. So catch us. And this is not something that, just a reminder that we have not yet celebrated our 10-month anniversary. We are an incredibly new organization, and more so a passion project by everybody that works here.
The original estimate was getting through about 50 or 60 expungements in the first year. What's gone on so far in this 10 months?
Oh man, we've submitted 381 fucking letters. I'm sorry. I'm so proud.
Look how passionate she is on this.
We've submitted 381 applications for expungement. And only, so 20% of those people, about 20%, 19 point something, 20% of those people are complete. Either they've completed the eligible expungements, that's all they can go to, or they've completely expunged their record. And that is an incredible threat, right? But more so, less than 30% of those people are for marijuana, for misdemeanor marijuana crimes in general. So what we're seeing is a good portion of people being charged with felonies and misdemeanors and other things that don't really have real true criminal acts to them, but are barriers in terms of expungement. The network has completed over 900 eligibility screenings. Since I'm giving exact numbers, 973 or something like that. I'm not entirely, but I am so proud of everything that we do there. And there's the people that work on it on a daily basis. And it is, us being welcomed into these spots is not a miracle. It's built on hard work and dedication, and this overall, all it takes is to see one person get their record expunged and then they're hooked, right? So Crystal got her record expunged and then she came here. She was like, this is what I want to fucking do, dude. It is incredible, and there's nothing that I've seen that has provided more to both my community, right, making more people available for work, but also to a whole new generation of present parenting. Let's remember that there are 2 million people in Michigan, 2.3 million people in Michigan with criminal records right now. That is 23% of all Michiganders. Those are people that cannot go to their kids' school. Those are people that will never. They are. This is where it comes from. You should look. There's tons of studies about where the money comes from the state, and turns out it's Black and brown people incarcerating them for long periods of time. Anyways. So what we're finding is that there is a change and a shift politically where people actually can do the crime, do the time, and then maybe they shouldn't be burdened for it forever, right? Why did I spend 15 years in jail if I have to live with this forever?
How long do you keep paying for it, right?
And people deserve it. People deserve a second chance, and they shouldn't have to read to orphans or be extraordinary. Everyday people deserve not to live in chronic and constant fear of the government that is there to protect them, right? And that is the whole problem. We have laws and policies that have been created that are consistently adversely affecting the same communities that are generally poor or impoverished or underprivileged or historically Black or whatever. And these are things that we don't escape here in Michigan, right? Oftentimes,
I was going to say, Josey, that the most heartwarming part of these expungements are when you get the call and the guy says, "Hey, if I can get rid of this felony, I can get a promotion or I can go get a better job." And then when they do, and they realize that that's the only difference, something on paper from so long ago is the only hurdle between them and a better life. It's sad that it's that way, but it's exciting when you get to the other side.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, and also remember, people with criminal records are rarely criminals, right? The real criminals are the ones that run out there and don't get caught and don't have a criminal. Like, they're very rarely do I see somebody. My favorite one is I have a client who has only thing on her record ever is two felony counts of not receiving rental property. In 1986, she had rented 5 movies from Blockbuster and did not return them, and they charged her with a felony.
That's so
a
stupid.
felony.
Oh my
And
God.
so she's worked for the post office for over 30 years, and she went to get a big promotion, which she deserved. And they denied her because she is a felony. Yes, see, Paul has seen it. Paul has seen it. You see his face.
That's the nod of understanding.
Oh my God.
This is a woman who has dealt with just a reminder for all the kids that don't know what Blockbuster is, because it's gone now and doesn't exist. It's a place where you used to rent movies. And
Betamax.
These charges about this multi-million-dollar company, and this is where you start wondering, why were they creating these crimes? What did they believe sitting in a goddamn jail cell will do? You think just being told, hey, we'll go to court over this, a civil infraction, $100 fine, probably keeps you from not returning videotapes, right? A felony? I said, what movies were it?
How'd that even get to the point where it was considered of value enough, or enough of a loss for Blockbuster to warrant that being such
It is the way that we value people that don't follow the rules. And maybe even further, the way that we value people that don't conform. It's the way we value drug offenders and the way we value...
Yeah. Society was into over-punishment at that particular time, There's a time when the pendulum swings back, and there was a time when we over-punished everything. Mandatory minimums were crazy. We wanted to treat rock cocaine different than powdered cocaine. We had a whole different set of standards based on where your geography was. Josey knows if you lived in the wrong place, your ass got slammed. But if you lived in the right place,
right now, 20 years
continues.
For first-time drug offenses for everything except for marijuana here in the state of Michigan. I want everyone to know that. I also am trying to convince my unnamed legislator to introduce a bill to reduce these penalties because they're barriers in expungement. Here in the state of Michigan, you cannot expunge anything more than one time if it's a felony that's punishable by more than 10 years. Paul, is it true that there are 2 felonies that are already not barred from expungement that are punishable by more than 10 years? One, felony uttering publishing, and then all the other ones are just drug crimes. Is that true? Because the big things like assault with intent to harm or CSC and all of that is already gone, already banned.
Right. Those are eliminated by the fact that they're assaultive. And then the ones that exceed that, I'm in a position right now where I'm going to challenge a conviction, a statute that doesn't exist based on the language and just, see if that challenges will fly with that judge. And a lot of times, if the judge says yes, it'll just go through based on, I think the focus is the nature and type of the offense rather than, let's say, the larger implications.
And it's hard to narrate what to expect in these courtrooms because they are not the same. They are absolutely not the
It's very subjective.
They're not necessarily even the same from judge to judge within the same courthouse.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm seeing more of a pattern in Wayne County where they say, okay, well, as soon as the AG says okay, we'll just do a stipulation so we avoid clogging up the system. I had a judge yesterday asked my client about all this past and this history stuff, and I was about to, you know, kind of be like, Judge, this isn't relevant questioning, and this isn't part of the, you know, you're not asking questions in the consideration of the statute. And before I could say that, she's like, okay, sounds right, I'll grant it. But
So-
you're still getting, again, judge personalities involved.
Right.
Of our 381, so a lot of these things haven't been processed through, right? So by the AG is the final say for a lot of these judges.
It's like in the old days when we were waiting for our cards to get issued.
Oh my God.
Bingo.
6 months plus.
Yeah.
6 months plus.
Because you got two ladies working the whole office.
It is
and they're just
Right.
cranking stuff out.
literally
Yep.
that is
And no one would
a
approve money
literal
for more
true
people
number.
work.
Yes.
Hey, so it is like 20 till, and I hope that Adam comes back on because I want to see if we can give away a few tickets for the great festivities for Hash Bash weekend. And so maybe when he slides back on, we'll be able to get to that.
Let's get Latricia on though, because Latricia.
Yeah, man.
She's been
And
on.
Latricia, you posted a. Well, first of all, we talked about Amie's candidacy. Latricia's, amongst many other things that she's been doing. I mean, very helpful. A lot of the efforts community wide is the manager. You know.
Yep, I'm a campaign manager now. I mean, would you guys believe it would be anybody else? Just kidding. No, we're just getting the ball rolling. Lots to do, lots of classes and things that we still need to do and whatnot, and starting to meet up with different Democratic Party. We're looking for different types of voters and things like that too that kind of fit the scope. I don't think it's going to be that complicated out here. I can't even really tell you much about it from where we're at right now, other than what we went through in comparison to what we know we have to go to moving forward. So there's a lot more going on with that. But I don't know if you guys, I just sent all of you an email or a message because I just walked in on the 5512 conversation when I popped on there. Just out of nowhere, I received this email from a friend of mine in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's a lot of arguments going on who said what and what was wrong in Pennsylvania. For some reason, the department should have given us information out like 17 months ago. So there's quite a few of the same types of hearings that are going on in Oregon and Pennsylvania right now. So there's some tea for you to dip into here a little bit later on.
You know, Paul, speaking of 5512, I had a conversation with another lawyer earlier today, and we talked about how, and I just asked, because we talked about the immunity in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. And I said, if somebody's in the criminal justice system, does that dissolve that immunity at all? And that person didn't think so. And so, applying that to 5512,
it would have to exist. The immunity would have to persist, but immunity is it's a determination. And if you've made it past a determination that you're not eligible or qualified for the immunity, whether through Section 4 or later on through Section 8, then you face the rules as they are. And I view that as if you fail Section 4, fail Section 8, then you go right into MRTMA, because that governs now all the penalties of the marijuana laws outside of the Medical Marijuana Act.
And if something isn't covered or interpreted to be covered, then it possibly could slip to the criminal code because of the connection to the controlled substances list. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to take it off of that.
In a sense, yes, but it would have to fall through the gaps of something not specified. And in that regard, it would be, as is the point of 5512,
a small transaction with remuneration.
Right. Or the general, like you get into, I think it's, sometimes you see it more in paperwork, like insurance and the like, where they just say a Schedule 1 drug, right? And then that's just sort of all encompassing, and you that definition wins over your challenges to your medical marijuana exemptions, because they're saying, well, this language says any Schedule 1 substance, And if you challenge it, it's like the Walmart case to a degree.
I want to talk about kind of that and some stuff related with Eapen if he were to come on, and because he's working on a descheduling effort in Missouri, and they're going in and changing all these different things that are connected, to that. Whereas we're just ripping the Band-Aid off and taking away the weight, dissolving the connection. So anyway, I was interested in talking about that, but I do want to get to Adam here for a minute. We'll come back and I actually want to talk to Latricia a little bit more too. But well, he's got to wrap up a phone call. But I want to figure out what people need to do to try to benefit themselves for their weekend in Ann Arbor.
I'm with you.
What do we do, man? How do you want to give away tickets?
The easiest thing to do is just a free for all. Pick a code word and whatever it is, we can we can let people just go to the website hashbashcup.com, and it'll ask for the code. They put the code in. That'll give them access to a Jazz Cabbage Cafe ticket that they won't see if they don't put the code in. And once those tickets are gone, that code won't work any longer. So right. It's kind of like a sprint. Okay. And that's
Rick, do you want to make up a code? Something simple, something related?
Well, you got to give me a chance to get it in. So if you want to,
come on, man.
You can either say it or send it to me, and I can.
Sure, we have private chat. How's that?
There you go.
Are we just saying it and let whoever first come, first serve?
Well, I got.
You got to set it up first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got it.
It's a 3-digit number, so there could be 999 mistakes. So, how many people do we actually?
Well, I thought you'd do like a,
like a what?
Like a
single
name,
number?
like a name that relates to our show or something.
I thought you asked me to pick a number, Jamie.
No, I know. Pick like our code for this.
Was that not a number?
Here. How about that? I got it.
Okay.
I'll keep your first effort alive.
You expect someone to guess that?
No, is that what we're doing? Making somebody guess something? I think we're just throwing it out, and the first ones to get there and get the free tickets get them. That's my understanding. Adam's either purposefully or not purposefully muted. You're muted.
Well, Adam. I understand. So you would, our listener actually would go to the website, enter the a particular code about the code that we're about to give them, and then that person would have.
There's going to be so many available in the first come first serve, I guess.
Right, there'll be 6 tickets available. We'll give away 6 tickets, which the way my system works, we'll end up giving away a few more than that, most likely. But
is it one per person?
Yes, one per person. Okay. And when they go to the website, it will ask them for a code, a promo code. And if they put this promo code in, then a Jazz Cabbage ticket will show up for them to select one, and it will be at no charge. So
and it's Hashbash Cup?
Yes, hashbashcup.com. And this will be for a 3-day.
You can change the scroll at the bottom, then that'd be good.
Wristband.
3-day wristband, hashbashcup.com.
Yes.
And then we have to tell people what the code is so that when they get there, they know how to do that, right?
Right.
So I'll wait.
It is active to my knowledge. Of course, I always say that, and then people say, "Oh, it's not working."
Well, yes. User error. Blame them.
Well, that's what I always tell them. And then I go in and fix it, and I claim it's user error. Mm-hmm. That happened last night, actually.
But everybody remember sonsofdaughtersunited.org. Look for the Hashbash treasure hunt.
Yes, and you can expunge your record on there. You can apply for support for a family member if they're incarcerated. It's a really great website. You should go to it right now.
And also, Great Lakes
Also,
Expungement.
please visit our Facebook page and donate to Kelly's fundraiser. It is matching funds, so every dollar that you give is doubled. There's only 2 weeks left on that, so please do that as well. Go buy a map. They're only $30. You'll pay $30, get $75 worth of cannabis goodies, and the chance to win even more. So come see me at the Sons and Daughters United booth at Hash Bash. You'll catch me smoking 5 joints in one hand. So also, just putting this out there for everyone to know, I would never deny you your right as a Michigander to give me marijuana. So if you see me out there, the voters of Michigan overwhelmingly voted in favor.
Demonstrate the gifting rule. Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm just saying. I'm saying that it's a thing. I would hate to disappoint the voters. Come see me at the booth.
Adam collects tributes when people.
All right.
People
Yeah,
So,
tributes.
is there anything else? If you go to hashpashcup.com, can you navigate? Is it you pulled on a menu or something? Can you navigate to where you need to go put the code in for the tickets?
I believe it's on the. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen that. I only see it from the back end, so I don't get to see the front end.
Wow, that's a great sound clip for us to get.
I'll say that any day.
You said a few of them here. I just decided it was too easy, so just.
So we have to give him the code. Adam has to enter the code into this
It's
magic
already
machine.
in.
There are some people that I guess I can't find are going to the site and can't figure out where to put the code. But I guess if you go there, it is
At some
possible to
point,
figure it out.
when under buy tickets, at some point it asks. There's a box to put a code. You have to click the buy tickets thing. I could probably figure out how to.
Oh, so you have to get to the point where you
buy tickets, then input promo code, and then it'll give you a discounted amount before it takes your credit card information. That's how most ticketing sites work. Eventbrite.
Yeah, this won't ask you. This will just show you the ticket before you.
Right. So how do people get the special code to put into the computer? Are we just telling them right now? Is that what we're
I
doing?
think so. I think if people should be teed up on the site. That's in my humble opinion, because the site has been
Only 6 tickets. You better get up there. It's a $30
bottom.
value.
one per person.
No.
And all right, Rick, you want to deliver the official code?
Yeah.
The code. Are you ready, Adam?
Well, yeah, just real quick. When you click on the buy tickets, I just did it. When you click on the buy tickets, it takes you to a page and it says in big letters, "Do you have a promotion code?" Guess what? That's where you put the
People
code.
need to know. People needed to know to hit the buy tickets, and that it would be taken care of by the
You
promotion.
guys are high right now.
Be nice to Boo Boo.
Bye.
Be nice to Boo Boo. She's a loyal.
Yes, Rick and Adam are.
I am not. So I'm going to be the guy giving out the free promo code so people will love me for a change. Okay, so the promo code is all in lowercase. Are you ready? And Jamie should probably put this in the scroll. It is Cabbage 742. CABBAGE 742. All lowercase. That is your promo code. Boo Boo and the rest of you.
Yay.
Yay, Cabbage 742. It's a mixture of 710 and 420 because I'm not very creative. So, you know.
And there it is.
Cabbage. You know, when I look at it
looks like Adam's
Adam's
computer and whole room was overloaded.
I know. We have a lot of listeners. They're jumping right now. By the way, we're recording this on a Tuesday afternoon, 5:53 p.m. So if you're seeing this in a replay on Pro Cannabis Media, or if you're listening to this in one of our podcasting platforms like Alexa or Spotify, you are already missed your opportunity. I'm very sorry. We should have said that ahead of time.
Try it though. I mean,
yeah, maybe Adam left it up and you still have a chance to get one of those ticks. Sure.
All right. Boo Boo was lost halfway through. I don't know if it's about this, but go to hashbashcup.com.
Let's make me sad. Boo Boo.
All right, so the response was so overwhelming that Adam was knocked out of the room, but he's been able to make it back on.
Adam knocked himself out of the room. I hit
So
the wrong
Tony's
button.
So you go there,
Boo-boo's
you hit buy
looking.
tickets, and it
Tony's
goes to a
looking.
page. Hashbashcup.com. Buy tickets. Promo code Cabbage742.
Yeah, there's already 3 of them are gone already.
Yes. See? That's the power of love.
4 of them are
Give it
gone.
us.
Lucas Gardens was sitting on it, trying to think about it. It looks like get in
Applied
there.
and sat there. That's a blue tongue on your dog, by the way, in that logo. In case you didn't notice, that's not normal.
No, there's dogs that have
Yeah,
like
and then the gummies.
purple and blue tongues. That's normal for them.
My dog.
They don't like to
Abby-
be discriminated against.
My
actually.
dog Abby had a speckled tongue because she was part Chow. Chow is a breed that typically has a speckled tongue, but I've not seen a dark blue tongue on a dog before, and I'm not a young man, even though I look it. So, Paul, you've been quiet for far too long. I see you smiling over there, sir.
I'm laughing. I got my smoke eater running. I don't want to
Oh, I get
drown
you.
everybody out.
Little charcoal filter, okay. Old school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, we used to carry those to
you know.
hotel rooms, the charcoal filter and an inline fan, and just plug it right into the wall, and But Adam Brook has the shower cap method, which works pretty well for him everywhere he goes.
Tony's saying it's charging her.
What?
Tony's saying that the site is charging her, and Mark's saying the computers fucking suck.
It shouldn't charge her. And the 6 tickets have been given away, I believe.
Wait a second.
She got it.
From Tony.
Yes.
Yes. Real good people do win, Tony.
Manifest.
You're a real good person. We love it.
Yeah,
Good
here.
Mark.
And now, here's the cool part. Ben, Archie, Christian, Tom, Russell, Ryan. Those are names I see as winners.
Not
The fuck
wieners.
Trying to win a ticket for you ain't coming to, dude. Explain that.
Trying to win a ticket to an event you're not coming to, that really doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
Oh, poor Richard.
Richard didn't get there.
No.
Yes.
But wait, there's next week Tuesday. Sorry, you guys are Tuesday.
But also, if somebody wants to listen to Medical Mondays, I'm sure you're going to try to set up something for that too, right? So
Yeah.
So listen to both.
We'll
Double
get
dip.
There was a little hesitation on that. Yeah, Adam, actually.
They wanted to do
A little
a
protracted.
contest. They wanted to do a contest to win tickets.
That's right. They wanted to give a question or something like that. Oh,
Well,
Sinclair
no.
was the answer actually last night.
No, Sinclair was the answer to a question last night, but they wanted to do a contest, and I'm not sure I want to participate in that. So I'm a little leery, but yeah, the question thing works out well. I'm not sure that the other type of contest they were talking about, but
Damn. Even
We'll give 'em
Adam
away.
won't jump in on that contest. That's
I
gotta
just
be
give them
heinous
away.
as
I don't have
shit.
to do anything special. I just throw a word out there and give it away.
So hey, they all want to. I'm happy, man. And more people joining the party.
Yeah,
let's
I have
put
no
stuff on
problem
the
within
weekend.
seconds.
It's away. I don't want to make it hard
We'll
on
do it again next week, and in the meantime, you can go to the site and get them too for those.
Yeah,
who-
you can buy them.
Yep.
We allow that.
So just a couple minutes left. I've never heard from Eapen, but we'll keep on trying on that. I would still want to have that conversation. I also wanted to take that opportunity to talk more about the effort here too. But we had a good show and kept on getting some good stuff going no matter what. And I want to thank everybody for coming on. Everybody's here now.
Amy and Latrish and Rick also.
And Latrish mentioned that she had issue with connection, and obviously Rick went back and forth a little bit, so we had that going on, but still very happy to have everybody. And before we wrap it up in the next couple of minutes, Josey, is there anything you wanted to just throw in there in a couple seconds?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on the show. Please go buy your map. It was my 7th anniversary for Sons and Daughters United last Monday. So a week from yesterday. Thank you guys for all the ways that all the opportunities to grow alongside it. We started this when I was 19, so I'm really excited for the guidance and I appreciate all of this. So go buy your goddamn map. Will you make that? Got him. And then after you put that, will you also put the website?
Buy a goddamn map.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm not an advertiser.
And so all the money, whether it's $30 or $40, whether you're getting it day of or not. And here's Eapen right here, right at the end of right at the end of the show. But we'll go on and have a little conversation, I guess, for a minute. Hey, Eapen, but if anybody has to go, even this is normally a time we end the show, but we'll stick on and have a little conversation for a couple minutes anyway.
Yeah. So sorry. I thought we were gonna come in at 5.
Yeah, but it's 6 here.
It's time
We're Eastern.
I always forget that you're in a different time zone. Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay, Eapen. So you clearly had some great news to talk about last time you were here in regards to some legislation that was being introduced, and it looks as if maybe there's been some rockiness involved with that. Go ahead and let us know.
So we had a bill hearing in the Missouri House Public Safety Committee this past Tuesday. It was a great hearing. We had something like almost 40 advocates actually showed up to testify. We had well over 100 people in support of the actual bill physically in the Capitol. So we certainly made our presence known. And I'm going to highlight our bill sponsors are very conservative Republican, very conservative, very pro-Trump, Catholic conservative, right? And we've got the best legalization bill I think we've ever seen in the country. And I want to highlight one of the things that we talked about last time. We actually, I think, are going to be the first state to seriously take up the actual issue of removing marijuana from the drug scheduling in Missouri. So that's a huge deal. The bill, as it's written, does not have license caps or artificial barriers to entry. We create a pretty strict regulatory regime.
Are those separate bills, or is that all part of the same effort?
We have our bill is 75 pages long. So
because it gets into all the reach where marijuana is and stuff like that.
Very comprehensive.
We were talking about that earlier. Yeah.
We have everything from removing prohibition from using marijuana if you're on probation or parole. We have remove it as a factor in family court proceedings. We have several provisions that make it easier for banks to work with the industry. We have tax deductions for people who got screwed over in the medical marijuana licensing process a couple of years ago. We got a labeling provision for, if you have a cannabinoid product on sale, here's your labeling regulations. We have first in the nation hospitality permitting system to allow bars, restaurants, and lodging establishments to create regulated safe consumption spaces and sell product. And that's getting a lot of attention from our hospitality sector. Because, you think about hospitality right now. Hospitality is devastated after this whole pandemic deal, right? And we're just trying to get them a new revenue source potentially, and so that's getting a lot of acceptance and interest from.
Even we're talking about fly in, check into your hotel, buy some cannabis in the lobby, walk out into a very nice little space where you can smoke it, head back up to your room and do your thing, right?
Heck, if theoretically the hotel could allow smoking in rooms. There's still, cigarette smoking in certain rooms, right?
That's perfect.
It depends on the operator if they want to deal with that or not. But I guarantee you, you have Airbnb operators here in the state of Missouri who would jump up and down at this. And imagine an Airbnb operator who has, a joint, or a blunt waiting for you on check-in, and
that's a very nice state to visit. Yes.
Yeah. We got great.
Well, yeah, just as broad as possible, as soon as possible. It just
makes sense. Nobody should have to not have that already, right?
Yep.
So break ground with that.
It's just cannabis, and we all dig it. And fuck jumping through all these hoops that are expensive and all that kind of shit. Let's just make it available, and it's an opportunity, and it's a reflection of, I think, what people have expressed that they want. The decision makers have a hard time catching up to what the masses seem to be okay with.
There's some pushback though, right?
Well, the pushback we've seen is, on one side you would expect it, but all all except 2 witnesses in opposition to our bill at our hearing last week were actually industry players, right? Because they want to keep their monopoly that they've that they bought and paid for in the Missouri Constitution for the medical marijuana program.
Yeah.
So
We deal with a version of that here.
So there are 3 groups. There's a Catholic Association. There was the Prosecutors Association, and then there was the American Academy of Pediatrics. They all submitted statements in opposition, which we expect. Those guys are always been no way, no how, no where, whatever. We expected that. But to see the marijuana industry in Missouri oppose a free market legalization proposal was revelatory for a lot of folks in the legislature, because these guys are the people who try to spend $2 million, $3 million on a ballot initiative that avoids the legislature. So why are they avoiding this deliberative, transparent process of hashing out our differences and taking input from adversarial stakeholders? Well, they don't want to take input from the people of Missouri. And so I think we've demonstrated to the politicians in Jefferson City that the citizens of Missouri are calling for their action urgently, right? And so that was an extremely positive, extremely fantastic thing that we saw happen this past week. I mean,
I'm sorry. What's your time frame on this? Obviously, you had a hearing today. You have to have a local passage in the Missouri House before it can advance. Is that true?
We are fairly certain will come out of the House in the next week or two. The legislature is actually on vacation this week. Once they come back in on this coming Monday, we have 8 weeks to get through the House and the Senate, and it's a little tricky, but we believe we have the popular support to do this. So
all the way through?
Yes.
Right on. So we have a bill that's been introduced in Michigan to deschedule cannabis in the state. House Bill 5877, introduced by Rep. Robbie. It's partisan, though. It's like 9 or 10 Democrats on it. We almost had a Republican or 2, but it just didn't work out. There's going to be a companion bill. We might work something out with the Republican on that to try to balance it out a little bit. But we weren't expecting it really to get that far in this session. But it just rips the Band-Aid off. Just takes it off the schedule. And for the same reasons, the list of problems it still causes sitting there.
Right. It sounds like Missouri's program would go much more quickly than ours will.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like that's got enough support to get it through, where we're just trying to get the idea into people's heads right now.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to kind of just reiterate, like, our legalization push is led by conservatives, and maybe it's just that we have spent more time fostering a libertarian conservative movement in Missouri than most other states have. But, we really have done a lot to, assuage the concerns of conservatives, and not just that, but find leaders, right? So I'm very proud of that, and I also want to highlight, I think the thing I'm most proud of in my entire career was this hearing last Tuesday, because for the first time since Prohibition began, the people of Missouri rose up and started directly engaging in the political process. No ballot initiatives, no lobbyists. The people themselves are calling for this, and I saw so many people who came up to the Capitol for the first time and just to express their voice, and I was incredibly proud of that. Our bill sponsor Ron Hicks was incredibly proud of that, because that's what we're here for. And we actually had a lobbyist for our opposition, a lobbyist representing the ballot initiative and the Medical Marijuana Trade Association. We caught him on audio calling the citizens of Missouri who are coming up to have their voice heard and engage in the political process. He called them clowns, right? So that's creating an incredible backlash. I'm a lobbyist, right? I'm proud of my profession, but there's one thing in my profession or in politics that you should never do, and that's disrespect the people that you're of your state, right? The people of Missouri, right? You know, like you can call me all the names you want. Kind of comes with the territory. You can like me, not like me. I don't give a shit, honestly. But you know, to hear industry lobbyists disparage the people of Missouri for coming up to the Capitol and engaging the political process was really revelatory, right? And really showed, you know, that the politicians, that there's a very clear pathway on this, right? You know, you can either do what the people of Missouri want, or you can support the people who are mocking the people of Missouri. You know, what's it a, you know, there's a pretty easy choice here if you want to get reelected.
Well, I'm not sure if this is an election year for y'all down there, but so you're talking about one of the only times when lawmakers are really interested in what citizens have to say, you know, really, or at least hyper interested in what citizens have to say right now. We mentioned earlier the value of having people show up for hearings, and also for the value of protests when it's done appropriately. So
right.
Certainly those are tools that are available to get your point across and to support legislation. Not just ballot initiatives, but to support legislation too.
Right. So, yeah, you know, we've got, I think, a really amazing thing happening in my state, and I'm really proud of it. And, you know, I appreciate your guys' attention to the issue.
Thanks.
So,
well, it's obviously a different approach, and it is much more broad and liberal. I mean, I know you're saying this is all being done via conservative, but in terms of like the ability just to have cannabis bought and sold and at convenient places without all the extra regulatory
far-reaching
expensive stuff,
changes.
You know, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's unique, man, and that's, you know, we support that. I mean, I do anyway.
Certainly.
Right. You know, and you know, I would say, you know, cannabis is not a partisan issue. You know, my state is super partisan, but the issue is not partisan.
Right on.
We have a somewhere between a third and a fourth right now of the Missouri Legislative Black Caucus as co-sponsors. We have more Democrat co-sponsors on a Republican bill than we have Republicans. And we've got like 22, 23 co-sponsors right now. And this is truly a bipartisan bill, you know, and it's not seen as a partisan issue in the legislature. It's seen as are we here for the people, or are we here for the, you know, crony capitalists and monopolists? Right?
Well, that's a fantastic accomplishment nowadays, considering all of the hate that seems to be spewing between parties, especially in a time when they're sparring for election spots. So
right.
Fantastic. I know we're well over our time here. Eapen, was there anything else about that program that you wanted to let us know for sure?
You know, I just want to highlight, you know, I said this last time I was on this show, but we took a lot of ideas from a lot of different states, and, you know, your state is definitely one where you've had some great leaders, and, you know, I've definitely been fortunate to watch you guys over the years, and we took ideas from you guys. We took ideas from Colorado. We took ideas from Oklahoma. We took ideas from Oregon. We looked at California as a great example of how to get everything wrong.
Right. Learn what not to do. Exactly.
You know,
that's a valuable lesson, actually.
Apologies to my great friends in California, but
they know it's true.
They know it's true. But you know, maybe you know, here in the next by the end of the decade, this whole situation will be, you know, we'll have this whole war on our own people will be over, and you know,
maybe
that would be cool. And we normalize it to the point where it's not necessary to have a podcast very specifically about it, all of its politics.
I know. In
our state. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I'd welcome, you know, if we get this bill in the governor's house, I'd welcome you guys down to our state capitol, and you know, love to see you here, and hopefully I get to visit your state here.
Be honored to do that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure would, and we'd love to have you up here. We'll certainly give you a great tour. By the way, what are you doing next weekend?
Someone wants to buy me a plane ticket, I'm there.
Yeah. All right. Eapen, thank you so much for joining Jazz Cabbage Cafe today.
Yeah, and we'll get updates again.
We will.
You know, we'll be in touch.
All right. We'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it. Adams, anything you wanted to throw in?
No, just that time of the year. So it's good to see people active.
Yeah. I appreciate you sticking with us, and I think that was a successful ticket giveaway, and
was.
I like I like what's going on there, man. That is really huge, man. I mean, if that keeps on going through, it just kind of seems like at some point somebody is not going to do that, but I really hope it does, man. I mean,
for all of those people that want to say, why didn't we do this in Michigan? Michigan was a ballot proposal, which means we were limited in scope to what we could do, to only the amount of text we could fit on the back of the ballot petition itself. So we didn't have the luxury of having a 75-page bill. We were very brief in what we could do. So
or the kind of support he describes. I mean, we didn't have that either.
Well,
man.
God damn.
But we were also doing this 15 years before he was, 10 years before he was.
Right.
I know.
And he said he learned from a bunch of places. Yeah.
Right. But that's the key to what's happening right now is that, we kicked the door open. We forced people to understand what this was about. They then saw that there was no boogeyman, and now the dominoes are falling even faster. Momentum.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again. I'm sorry I do have to leave. We're a little over time. So
yep. If anything else you want to wrap it up with, Rick, I just appreciate the show. I'm glad we got that in. And
I will be appearing. I'll be appearing in Bazanzo's both Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday will be Bazanzo's Walled Lake. Friday will be Bazanzo's Lansing. Those are both 3 to 6 p.m. appearances. And on 4/20, I'll be joining Lighten Up Provisioning Center for just a gigantic freaking giveaway that they're doing up there. You can see some information on Facebook or check it out via Google. But what a great opportunity that's going to be! It's going to be spring, y'all. Events are happening.
Right on. All right. Thanks, everybody. Jazz Cabbage Cafe. And next week, we'll all talk soon.
Thank
See you guys.
Peace.